Minor change this week. We are going to talk about these. This is a bearing. Bearing makes things going round in circles easier. We like bearings. This is not, of course, going to be part of the Bernard vehicle, but instead this is going to be on the sort of scaled down version of the wheel prototypes I'm making for a snow sledge. And because of the fact that the wheels won't be actively powered, this sledge will be pulled by me. Instead of having a motor and a gearbox, we simply need to have an axle, a shaft running through a pair of bearings on each end of the sledge to reduce the friction, and to mean that we can hopefully make hauling a sledge across frictiony snow, because when snow gets very cold it gets higher in friction, it will make life easier. And I'm hoping it will start to at least partially innovate the world of hauling heavy things over cold snowy places. And I'm going to talk to you about the sort of modification I've had to do to these 4 bearings in order to make them suitable for that role.
This series is the story of the new amphibious Arctic vehicle project named Bernard. Building on ideas, skills and questions raised during the Allen lifeboat conversion, as a team we will share all those moments needed to get Bernard up north onto the ice and making himself useful. People of the channel, me again. You probably would have just noticed that I've put the intro bit back into the videos, and that's mainly because I did an experiment in the last episode where I just went straight into the video and didn't have the introduction, and I found, having looked at the YouTube analytics, that there was absolutely zero difference depending on how many people stayed before or after them, because you get like 30-second retention statistics, and yeah, it makes no difference at all. So I put them back in because I kind of like it, and it's also quite useful for those of you who are new to the channel, and you can work out the context of why I'm putting these videos together in the first place. If you're familiar with the channel, of course you don't need that. Bear with it, it's only like 12 seconds or something. They will continue to be there, and I will continue to do the little book plug at the end of the episode. Anyway, in this episode we're going to be talking about what you just saw a little bit of. We've got bearings, and I have an extremely long pole which I will be explaining in a moment as well. Make sure that doesn't fall over. Aside from that, I think I will probably now get back to the video. There's also going to be an announcement that I will make in the middle of the video, and here is that closer look, tantalizingly positioned on my new yard furniture. As you can see, these generic but quality sealed bearing inserts are inserted into an engineering grade thermoplastic housing, not heavier iron or steel as is more typical. It's still nearly half a kilo, and I wonder, given my application, if some of that housing can be vanquished to save weight. Now, the product listing offered up temperature ratings for the housing and the bearing, looking good for polar conditions, but no reference here to the all-important grease lubricating those clever little balls of steel hidden inside. The helpful retailer sent me the tech sheet, which said this. So, grease from a top brand, and with a minus 30 degree rating. Ideally I'd like 10 degrees lower, but that's no disaster. But prepare yourselves, good people of the channel. On closer inspection, this aluminium complex mineral oil based grease has no temperature rating on the mobile website, and other retailers claim the bottom end at minus 20 degrees or even minus 15. Something's up, so I put it in my domestic minus 20 degree freezer. This was the result. Warm on the left, frozen on the right. A shocking betrayal. I've been stitched up like an Arctic char. Heads will roll, but only very slowly if using this lubricant in the cold. We have unsanctioned friction. That oil has thickened up, and whilst admittedly smooth, is not doing its job properly, so we need to change it. First though, Domestic Alex will briefly address you again.
Yep, me again. And first things first, cheers to those of you who have joined the channel as members, those of you on the basic tiers, but also up to the 3rd tier, where you get a personalized monthly video and also access to the bonus video, which will go out every month. The first of those videos is now live. If you are a member and you haven't had the access link for that, do let me know. And those of you who are joining afresh, of course, you'll have access to all the previous bonus episodes and the ones that will come out at the beginning of each month. So that's all super exciting. Cheers to those also who have subscribed to the channel recently. I obviously have had a bit of a plateau with subscribers as we went through the sort of Allen to Bernard transition and so on. I'm also going to be adding a load more videos to my Arguably channel, which is my more sort of discussion and ideas based channel. That had a really good uptake on an interview that I did with a friend who lives up in Greenland regarding Trump and politics and sovereignty and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to try and put a load of shorter videos on there, not shorts, but sort of slightly shorter videos than the hour long ones I was doing before, and that should hopefully mean that I can increase the frequency a little bit, because I know that the posting rate on there has not been particularly fast. And of course the YouTube gods absolutely love it when you're producing lots of videos very rapidly. I'll try and keep to the one per week on average that I do on this channel. Aside from that, oh yes, The announcement, the one that I mentioned briefly at the beginning of the episode, when I was back in Iceland at the beginning of the year, I did a fairly short notice Q&A from my little guest house on the edge of the interior of Iceland, and I think lots of you at the time said, oh, I missed it, didn't know it was happening, so I'm going to give you loads of advance warning for the next one. It is going to be not tomorrow, I'm recording it on Saturday, it's going to be next Sunday, which is going to be the 17th of August, and it's going to be 6 p.m. UK time. I will put all the translations to different time zones in the description, and I will also do a post on the community page. I think it's now called the posts page, which will remind you about that. So all members, of course, can pre-send in questions. Everyone else can also pre-send in questions, but members, of course, are guaranteed. Please just put a little M after your question if you are a member. I'll check that you are, and you'll be guaranteed an answer. But other than that, obviously, I'll be able to answer live questions as well at the time, and we will, as we normally do, go through as many questions until they literally run out. I won't put a time limit on it. They're normally quite a lot of fun and go on for quite a while, so you can get in there for the long haul, get a glass of wine, and have a really good time with it. Actually, speaking of which, where is my glass of wine? I took it apart, cleaned it out, refroze it, and decided to go ahead with the lubrication swap. I just wanted to make sure it was just the hardened grease to blame and not a design issue. The empty, open, frozen bearing turns like a dream. So, back to the yard in time for the bearing's brother to endure my same surgical skills. I've been told it's very hard to open sealed bearings and work on them, so easy does it. I have some small prying tools, but even they were too thick, so I filed one even narrower yet without making it dangerously sharp. These bearings have a stainless steel shield, and they are thin, so instead of prying it off crudely in one motion, I needed to ease it off to avoid bending the steel. But that's only in the way to stop impacts or large debris from attacking the nitrile rubber seal. I had to be really careful here and used a longer and pointier prying tool. Going in via the inner perimeter, sideways and not perpendicular to the edge of the seal, seemed the gentlest method. Right, so we're inside the bearing cavity. I was surprised that it was greased quite lightly, although I know you're not supposed to pack it to 100% full. This Mobil FM222 globs up into distinct blobs, and obviously this will only grow more pronounced in cold temperatures. The housings are designed with grease gun compatible capped valves on the side, so they can be topped up should the seal slowly allow any escapees. So we need to get the grease out, and for that, obviously, the plastic housing needs to comply with new very liberal modesty laws that we can all look forward to being ushered in, and so covered up. Should probably get that semi-sharp tool off the inflatable sofa. And that seal too, lest it get contaminated with grot and pursue a career path as a non-seal. I'm going to blast the old grease out forcibly using brake cleaner. This is a light-duty product and does not eat into rubbers, so slightly less effective than strong solvent brake cleaners, but better for this. You'll notice I only took one side off the bearing to keep the other seal and shield unprised, so the cleaner does need to be nitrile rubber compatible. Most of it comes out easily, with concerted squirts to use the best of the compressed can's oomph, and some shakes to encourage the globs to fall out. There are still some little balls of grease hiding behind the cage, so I got in there with a little clean piece of wire to break up the globs. Another blasting with a pressurized can of cleaner finished off the job. Now, brake cleaner isn't like pure acetone, so you can't trust it to totally disappear in a fit of volatility. So, having double checked that nitrile rubber is compatible with alcohol, I sloshed it quickly with pure isopropyl alcohol to dissolve any residue and shook it out. Then, and yes, we awkwardly segue to the other bearing I decided to remove from the housing, we let that alcohol completely evaporate back in the workshop in a spot where nothing gritty could accidentally fall into the open chamber. Some of you might have been wondering about the grease refilling design for this bearing. Some have single holes so you need to line up perfectly with the housing's grease port, but this is more forgiving. There's a channel in the outer race that guides grease along to two little holes, thereafter into the bearing chamber itself. Anyhow, that dry, clean bearing needs re-greasing. I've sourced this one, a quality brand, SKF, and this is a fully synthetic lithium soap-based grease that is specifically formulated down to minus 50 degrees Celsius. Joyous, and someone let me loose with a little syringe. I thought this would be a neat way to fill the bearing. I guess I could reconstruct the bearing dry and then use a grease gun through the housing port, but I think this is faster and means I can confirm that there's the right quantity and distribution all around the chamber. This did go fine at first, for a few squirts at least, but I think the viscosity of the grease was a little bit too much for the syringe, and it broke. So I had to fetch a much larger one. Probably not much better than squishing it in there with a finger. I'm sure this is overkill, but I did also push more of the grease down into the bottom half too. I filled it to, I guess, about 2/3 of the available space, a bit more than I found when I opened it up at the start. We can now go about reassembling our sealed bearing insert. Nice clean seal, of course.
There's a slight mark on it that shows where I prized it off, but certainly no damage that I'm worried about. Remember that these will mostly operate, for me, at super low RPM and in the cold, so conditions least likely to leak grease. It's not obvious exactly how far to push the seal down, so I just used common sense and made sure that it was uniformly seated, then cleaned up any smears. Not entirely sure why. The shield is trickier as it's thin and easily bent. Since the fit is so tight, it resists as you push and push, then pops on rather abruptly. My best tip is to push it on with both hands all around and using as many fingers around the circle as possible. Pretty happy with that, all sealed up and ready to go back in the housing. Can't hear anything. No scraping or sounds of distress, and here we go. I do think the shield is seated a little low, but I don't think it'll make a big difference. I'm certainly more likely to cause more damage by removing the shield and trying again. I'm probably going to try and do the other bearings in situ, still in the housings, as it seemed like an unnecessary step. You can see the channel in the housing that allows grease to go around, along, and into the bearing. Getting the bearing back in is tricky. For obvious reasons, the fit is extremely tight. There's a little pin on the bearing that would stop the bearing disastrously rotating inside the housing should that tight fit start to let you down. You put it in thus, and start the rotation towards the right orientation. At this point it puts up a fight, so as with getting the insert out in the first place, you use a lever. This spanner does the job, but a lever this short gives big jerky movements, so it's impossible not to overshoot proper alignment. No matter, that can be tweaked slowly later on with a long lever once the mounts are on the sledges. And here's a proper look at the axle I've picked. It's a 30mm wide, 2mm thick, roll wrap carbon fibre and Kevlar mix. Should be just the ticket. More later, and in the meanwhile, please buy, enjoy and review my books. They lead to a better life for us all. Bye.